and welcome to the Liquidity Event, a show about all things personal finance with a laser focus on what? What are we laser focused on, Shane?
Margaritas.
I was thinking this week we would have a laser focus on equity compensation with a side of martinis. Speaking of which, can I get a martini, please?
Oh my God, she's gonna clink her glass again.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, the famous off-camera
Cheers.
handing.
Cheers, my friends.
Wow.
Welcome to this
If I
week's
had
show.
a nickel for every time someone off-channel Nabil handed AJ a delicious cocktail or some olive tapenade, some
Olives are usually involved. If someone's handing me something, there's a good chance there are olives in it.
some just exquisite breakfast, lunch, or dinner off. So here comes my cassoulet. Excuse me.
I actually don't like cassoulet, but yes, everyone should be so lucky to have a Nabil to hand them drinks and food at all hours of the day.
Everyone should be so lucky to not like cassoulet. How do you not like cassoulet?
It's like sausagey and beanie. I don't like cooked sausage. Exactly. I think that's what I don't like about it. Anyways, what are you drinking, Shane?
I'm drinking a sour ass beer, my favorite. I think Brooklyn Brewery dropped a sour beer 2 years ago, and I just have a sour palate. I just love Sour Patch Kids since I was like 4 years old, and they turned it into beers.
You and I share that particular
puckering.
Taste profile. What's the fancy word for sour beer?
Oh, a goza.
Goza. Yeah, I'm always hesitant to pronounce it because I always feel like I'm saying it wrong.
It's one of those.
Goza.
It's like Maison Premier.
It's gonna come up every episode. Anyways,
Barcelona.
We are recording this live from, or not live, but from vacation. I'm hit
from the
Springs.
Center of the sun.
Yeah, I'm in Palm Springs where it's 109 degrees, balmy outside. This is my favorite place on earth. I just love it here, and I can't really describe why. It just feels so like swinging old Hollywood 40s glamour, lots of martini drinking, lots of pool sitting, golfing, even though I don't know how to golf yet.
I bet you're good at golf. I've been watching your golf game from afar.
No, you haven't.
Tell people about your golf foray. Give us some background. Did you know how to play golf 2 years ago? Have you ever swung a club 2 years ago?
No, of course not.
And you picked it up as a power move. And AJ, classic.
Classic us being outsiders in the financial services industry. I was like, well, what can I do so I can hang with?
You should learn to golf
with the boys. It's such a bro-y boys club. What can I do to fit in? Learn to play golf is what I decided. So here we are.
I freaking love old bro-y stuff like that. Golfing, going to sporty ball games. I was just in Mississippi for a wedding, and every dude was wearing golf. Apparently, everyone's golfing full time.
Oh yeah, everyone.
Mississippi.
It's crazy. Yeah, if you're a white dude between the age of 23 and 77, how old is Donald Trump? 79.
Well, from 18 to 26, 28, you're faking it, and then from 28 to 65, you're making it, and then from 65 to 90, you're
paying for everybody else, and everyone's
yeah.
Everyone's letting grandpa on the course with you.
Yeah, you're paying it back. The 18 to 26-year-olds are living off your dime at that point.
Yeah. What are you reading? Speaking of old people hobbies.
That's an old person hobby?
I don't know. No, yeah, I don't know.
Wow, another boomer jab from AJ. I am reading mostly tax updates, honestly.
So you're not reading a book is what you're trying to say?
I'm not reading a book. Yeah, I'm busted.
Yeah, you're busted. That's okay.
I mean, a weekly book update. Let's be real.
Yeah.
We're reading the same thing we did last week.
I actually am reading an actual book that I'm about 40 pages in. It's called Parable of the Sower.
You're on vacation.
Because I'm on vacation. Yeah, it's an Octavia Butler sci-fi that it's from the 90s, somehow missed it. It was recommended to me at a bookstore that I was at last week in LA. And it's really great. I love it so far. It's like, post-apocalyptic. What's the future going to look like? It's great. Highly recommend.
Parable of the Sower.
Parable of the Sower.
Not the sewer.
Not the sewer. Although it's about, yeah, a lot of poop and dirt because it's like post-apocalyptic outside Los Angeles.
Let's get one of those cool titles like Bonfire of the Vanities. You got to process. It takes about a few moments to rotate in your mind before you're like,
That was a flex. That's a great book. Bonfire of the Vanities.
Gravity's Rainbow. You gotta turn that one around. Although that one doesn't have any purpose, does it?
You haven't read Gravity's Rainbow. I haven't read Gravity's Rainbow.
I've got 2 copies that are totally unread on the shelf. Not even flipped.
I think I also have 2 copies. I think I read a total of 12 pages over
You're
the years.
pinching my ass here, Thomas.
Oh my God. I'm canceling you for that.
This is a literary podcast now. Let's do the headlines. Come on. Oh, what are we doing for fun? Yeah. I got to play one of my favorite board games, an ornithology board game. Wingspan over the weekend. Huge, great board game. You collect birds. They lay eggs. You get more birds. You get little habitats. It's like Settlers of the Catan, kind of vibes, short, quick game. Very modern. Everyone's involved every turn. Quick games. Yeah. Wingspan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You'd be good at it.
I probably would be. I'm very competitive with video games or board games. Oh, I did something awesome yesterday. I went on the Palm Springs aerial tram, which is like this tourist attraction they built in the 40s, and it goes up like 8,000 feet in like 10 minutes, and you're in this like rotating tram car on these tiny cables going up the side of a mountain. It was incredible. And like, you know, in the bottom, like the valley of Palm Springs, it's like 100 degrees, and you go up 8,000 feet to this mountain, and the climate like completely changes. And then it's like you're in like, it's not snow covered, but there's like Christmas trees, and it looks like you're in like the mountains of Colorado, and the temperature drops 30 or 40 degrees. It was
so the public transportation in California is essentially a roller coaster.
Yeah, basically.
And if we embraced roller coasters as public transportation, you're telling me we would get more funding and people would take the bus more often if it went 78 miles, 0 to 80.
Totally. Also, interestingly enough, I'm going to bring this back to taxes. In the like spiel as you're going up, it's terrifying. So there's this like calming voice, like walking through the history, like it's fine, like there's never been any accidents. And by the way, no tax dollars were ever used in the creation or renovation of this. And it's like, oh
my God, they
good
did
for
not.
You. Yeah, they flexed. They flexed that they did not use any tax dollars.
Was it donated by a billionaire?
No, yeah. I mean, it was built for profit. It's $28 a person, which is expensive, but totally worth it. Seriously, if you're ever in this part of the country.
Palm Springs tram.
The Palm Springs aerial tramway.
Palm Springs aerial tramway. The PSA.
Highly endorsed by
PSAT,
yours truly.
For all the high achieving middle schoolers. The PSAT.
Anyway, let's get into it.
That's enough Palm Springs aerial tramway.
Let's Palm Springs.
Let's get into these fire headlines.
Chitter chatter. Start us off.
Spending money. Speaking of spending money, is there a subscription to the Palm Springs aerial tramway? Is there like a monthly card instead of $28 a ride? You drop $400 for a monthly nonstop.
I don't know. I would be definitely into that. Speaking of subscriptions, should we talk about OnlyFans?
Whoa! No, I was building up a perfect segue.
Oh, I stole your segue. Sorry.
Oh my God, a perfect segue ruined. There's a subscription to public transportation. What? I was one sentence, one question.
The segue is quick.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I don't know how to stick this landing. Speaking of subscriptions to Palm Springs aerial tramway, Windows 365. For everyone that has an Office drone is familiar with Office 365. There's now Windows 365 just dropped, which is a subscription to Windows, the operating system. How the hell does that work? Well, it's just a...
I'm already asleep.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, the audience of this podcast is tech professionals. I'm sure they're familiar with developing tech and transitioning to a subscription model. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Office 365 is a subscription model. You get Excel, the most famous and most impactful software of all time. You can now get Office 365 or Windows 365. So you can just like subscribe to an operating machine, to a computer in the cloud. So you can, I think the vibe here is that you can just you can have a potato computer, just like a slow computer that has access to like a fast Windows 365 in the cloud type environment. They're competing with Azure and what are the other competitors? What's Amazon's AWS? I think Microsoft is entering the cloud computing space and
Okay.
virtual desktop.
Got it.
And you can subscribe to. I mean, you could subscribe to Windows, which is famously just one. It's like one of the last things you would expect to subscribe to in software land. Literally an operating system.
Right. You
So I
don't
think
have to
I think
go
it's cool.
to, remember when you went to Best Buy and you would buy the operating system in the cardboard box, and, you'd buy
yeah.
like every time, Windows 95, 97, every time it was like a big kahuna, every time an update came out. Now it's just all in the cloud.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to all the small biz CTOs out there. I feel you. This is a new item on the market here. I'm sure it'll be used by a ton of people listening to this, fellow. So you want to pivot from Windows 365 to OnlyFans. That's a natural segue.
The people subscribing to Windows 365 are also definitely subscribing to OnlyFans.
Whoa, hot take.
No, I mean, look, there's always going to be, OnlyFans, a site where you can,
What is OnlyFans, AJ?
OnlyFans is an open platform for content creators to share content with their fans.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to share pictures of you doing cute things, or in this case, they got in trouble because OnlyFans came out and said, hey, we're no longer going to allow explicit content, aka porn, on our platform anymore, because they were having trouble getting investors. And it was like this week.
Wait. OnlyFans has porn on it?
I think so. Explicit content, X-rated. You explain OnlyFans.
I mean, yes, of course it has porn. Anyone that's been looking at memes for the past 2 years, brought to you by OnlyFans, a cute young woman with a house in the background. They are famous, which I feel really bad for anyone that had like an early adopter of OnlyFans that really truly was generating content that's not pornographic, that has subscribers related to it. It's kind of like Patreon.
Well, it's like Patreon or Bandcamp or Etsy or any of these marketplaces.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Porn Patreon. Sorry, OnlyFans. Yeah. So what? So they tried to drop it.
Yeah. They sort of we're not going to touch this space. And OnlyFans has actually been, I think, I'm just speaking anecdotally from articles I read, but great for content creators and sex workers because it's a safe environment where they can actually get paid and they can work from the comfort of their own home online. So all of us pivoted to do our work online from the comfort of our homes for the past year. And, sex workers are a part of the economy. And, OnlyFans was remains a great place as of this week for them to continue to do that. Now, there was this big, hullabaloo because OnlyFans said we're going to pull the explicit content. Everyone freaked out, and they've reversed that decision now. So now it's fine. We're going forward.
Oh, so I don't have to cancel my...
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. That saves me the trouble.
All right, you get to segue us out into the next one.
How can I follow that? How can I follow that? Porn is back on the menu, boys.
Oh, I got it. Speaking of which, the European Wax Center raised $180 million in its initial public offering.
Speaking of explicit IPOs.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of
explicit offerings. There we go.
Exactly. European Wax Center, you ever been to a European Wax Center, Shane?
I subscribe to everything.
European Wax Center, great business model, stores in every city. They're going public.
I honestly don't know what it is.
So it's
I imagine half of our audience is unfamiliar if you want to.
Sure. So European Wax Center is, so you would go to the barbershop to get your hair cut if you need, or
do that all
the time, right? A lot of folks, both men and women, mostly women, go get waxed, either bikini wax, upper lip wax, eyebrow wax, just to stay tidy and neat looking. So European Wax Center is one of the most successful providers of that waxing service, and they're going public, which is awesome.
Thanks for female-splaining that to me.
No problem.
The European Wax Center.
Dallas-based company, European Wax Center.
No surprises on it being based out of Dallas. 0% surprise. The headline of this is that they're going to also add 2,000 stores in the near future? Is that the market's not satiated on? There's not enough European wax center EWCs.
Yeah, I saw that. I think this is sort of like a, Wall Street or Wall Street versus Main Street kind of thing, because there's a lot of, mom and pop beauty salons, waxing centers around the world. So I just wonder if, they're going to compete on price and, scale and drive a lot of these folks out of business, which I don't like. I don't like the sound of that.
You think the Europe? I mean, you can't. This is a business that's not going to be impacted by the remote shift of COVID. You can't remotely
wax. Is bikini
wax.
waxing a recession-proof business? It might be.
In the best of times,
in the worst of times. Okay, because I'm getting a tattoo. You
good.
have to get a bikini wax. That's the deal.
Oh, no problem. Absolutely. I relish.
Oh, really? Okay.
Should I get my armpits waxed?
Ow, no.
What should I got to get a bikini wax. Interesting. Interesting. Is that a bet? Are we going to lose bets live on the podcast?
So. You've already lost.
Because we're both getting the tattoo, so we need something. I'm not going to get OnlyFans involved in this bet. I don't know how to.
Segue yourself out of that one.
Well, I mean, I guess we should talk about. I mean, AJ and I lost a bet to ourselves, where we both have to get tattoos now. So stay tuned for that one.
Well, the reason why I wanted to bring up this European Wax Center thing is I put in our notes that I'm calling the top of the market, meaning like, is this a company that should go public? Right? Like this is a brick and mortar business that maybe needs some money from investors. Like, why did this need to be an IPO, an initial public offering? And this like makes me a little bit nervous that there's too many companies going public at too high a valuation, and it's kind of all being propped up by fluff and nothingness. Is why I put this in here. Also to get you to get a bikini wax.
Well, actually, what this company does is remove the fluff. Do you think that machine learning is mentioned anywhere in the
S1?
In the S1 or AI or
probably
algorithms?
That's what I'm saying. Like this is to me, this is WeWork. This is WeWork 2.0. They're like, we are a tech company because we have we invented our own POS system or whatever.
You think they've got some self-waxing car situation? You think they've got a Roomba for your body that you just lay down? They're removing the human element and the payroll taxes.
Now there's $1 million idea. A Roomba for your bikini line?
No, let's go.
All right.
Vax and wax, ready for summer. The opposite.
Should we explain
of
what Vaxxed and Wax means? I feel like we've been getting some feedback from this on this podcast that we've not been explaining. We use a lot of acronyms.
Oh, we do our own inside jokes we've been running for years, and people are just now listening to it. It was the first time being exposed to the machinations of our perverted, twisted minds.
Yeah.
What is
This is a spicy episode so far. We got porn, bikini waxes. Let's do something like.
We don't have a ton of articles, so we're filling in the gaps with lewd content.
That's not true. There's a huge article which I actually wanted to spend a lot of time talking about because it's very important, very relevant to this podcast.
Okay.
And that is this. It was a New York Times article that came out last week, and the title is "Who Gets the LLC Inside a Silicon Valley Billionaire's Divorce."
I didn't read this one, so give me the. I didn't read this one. Give me the deets on this one.
I mean, the deets are guy billionaire, who's the third Google founder. So we hear a lot about.
What's that? Scott Hassan, third Google founder. Yeah. In the garage kind of Google guy.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and he's got married, his wife of 13 years, Allison Hun, I believe is how you say her name. And yeah, we hear a lot about Sergey Brin and like the other founders. This guy's kind of not mentioned on the headlines, but he was there and therefore has the billions to back it up. And it's an article about their divorce. When you have that much money, you have all these different companies, you have stock options across. Based on this article, it seems like hundreds of different companies. You've got all these investments, you've got all these properties, you've got kids. And typically, a divorce like this is kept private, right? Usually there's private mediation. They hire very expensive lawyers to split everything. But in this case, it got kind of nasty. And like for the first time, or one of the first times, the public's actually able to see what's going on because they're going to court. So all their records are going to be public facing. So we can actually see what he owns, what she owns, and what they're suing each other for, in this split. The reason why I wanted to talk about it is because this is something that we have a ton of experience with, is how do you deal with equity compensation in a divorce? Who gets the unvested ISOs or incentive stock options in a company that's not yet public? It's how does the ex-spouse even know to advocate for the unvested, the vested equity compensation that could be worth, millions, or in this case, billions later? You don't even know it's there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, just to lighten the mood a bit, I mean, anyone that's divorced on this podcast or in the audience, these billionaires can't keep it locked down. Don't feel bad.
What?
I don't know. I mean, if you think that, there's some really funny memes out there about like, Bill, Sergey Brin, all these billionaires can't keep their marriages put together. Like, should we really feel guilt? It's like Jeff Bezos' divorce. Should we really feel bad about our divorces? Or I don't know. If you still got to put together. I don't know. I'm not married,
Look,
man.
Marriage is hard. Money makes it harder.
It makes it even harder. Look at that. I mean, look, he tried to get her to sign a post-nuptial. I think that's interesting. Anyone that's married on this podcast, a lot of people are familiar with a prenup. It's pretty famous. Post-nup, a little bit less famous, right? Just because you didn't sign a prenup doesn't mean you can't do it after the fact, which I find interesting.
And just to be clear, a prenup or a postnup is basically just a legal agreement that kind of defines the assets that you're bringing into the marriage. So if the marriage does fall apart, it's kind of like, hey, what happens if things don't work out? Like, we've agreed at this point that, your grandma's house that you just inherited is yours if we were to break up. That's essentially what a pre or postnup accomplishes.
Yeah, right on.
But they can get really complicated.
Right. Yeah, another thing in here, Sergey Brin founded 23andMe. Mm-hmm. Sergey Brin and his wife, they got divorced, and 23andMe, the famous company that ousted that doctor that had putting.
Oh, yeah. What's that documentary called?
Oof. He had like hundreds of kids because he was. Oh, spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah.
That came out years ago.
The statute of limitations on spoilers is over for that. But yeah,
Thank you.
He was injecting his own sperm into all of these women who were having fertility. These women were coming to him as he was their gynecologist. They were coming to him for fertility advice, and he was injecting his sperm and getting them pregnant. And none of them knew, none of their husbands knew, and the kids only figured it out later because of 23andMe. Crazy story.
Hot take: doctors have a higher wackiness score than your average Joe. I don't know. Sometimes they use their power for evil.
Yes, they do.
Anyway, that's not what you were asking me about. Like, the difficulties surrounding RSUs and equity in divorce are many. I mean, they're really nasty. I mean, you live in multiple states with your spouse. You've got multiple years of vesting schedules. You've got complicated tax situations post-divorce, wherein items that were attributable to both spouses pre-divorce are now you've got to deal with your ex-spouse for multiple years later as things vest and are sold, as lockup periods complicate. You got to talk to your ex on a quarterly basis to deal with the liquidity events that are ongoing. I've seen 10 plus paragraphs in divorce paperwork related to equity comp, and each paragraph is just a rat's nest of rules about how taxes, withholding, actual units and value are determined. And at the end of the day, like, it's not going to be cut and dry. You still got to have conversations with your ex. And I've told an ex-spouse to send hundreds of thousands of dollars to one of the ex-spouses to the other after the divorce. It's just like, it's very painful. It's very, very painful. It's
as if divorce isn't painful enough. A bank account is relatively cut and dry. An investment account is relatively cut and dry. A house is cut and dry. Equity compensation, rat's nest is a good word. Clusterfuck is another good word. Like, the value, and I think where like we come in is like subject experts is like, how do you value equity compensation at the start of a marriage, at the founding of a company where it's, quote unquote worthless because there's no market for it. No one wants to buy it yet. Company grows. company goes public, now it's worth millions, or if you're a founder, billions. How do we get the ex-spouse credit for that work in the marriage, that contribution? A lot of times with spouses, there's one partner that works, one that doesn't. Like the partner that's not working, just because they didn't necessarily go to work and earn that money, they were raising the family, they were taking care of the home, they often get completely cut out of these equity compensation divorces, which is what this article is sort of about. It's like, what is the contribution to the marriage of the non-working spouse? And this is like classic like divorce law back and forth. But when we talk about equity compensation with restricted stock units and options, it just gets so much more complicated, as the value of these stocks go up and up and up.
I mean, spouses, they play an incredibly important role to entrepreneurs. I mean, I know you've got another article in here you want to talk about with the podcast where the guy, the entrepreneurial on the Financial Advisor podcast, a little inside baseball. I mean, you're getting handed martinis by your very supportive spouse. And sometimes I wish I had things handed to me as an entrepreneur. Do you want to talk about, I mean, I don't know. We could roll into like what the spouse provides to an entrepreneur, like peace of mind. I don't know. I don't think I'm qualified to discuss those things, but it is very interesting. Like if you don't work, your spouse goes and creates it doesn't have to be $1 billion company. It could be a $10 million. It could be it could be a few $100,000, and there's equity and there's very valuable asset. How do you measure that contribution as someone that wasn't directly related? There's peace of mind. There is, what else do you think would be involved in the quote unquote value of quote unquote taking care of an entrepreneur as they pound the pavement, hang a shingle, build an empire, hashtag CEO.
Hashtag crushing it.
Yeah, do you think Mackenzie Scott ever said hashtag CEO to Jeff like early on and like
Right. This is, we're getting into like classic male versus female roles, and like, men are often seen as the entrepreneur, the breadwinner, and that's changing, right? That is rapidly and radically changing, but we're not there yet. I was listening to a podcast this morning, one of our, favorite insider financial planner podcasts, and I heard this guy being interviewed, and I had to roll it back like 3 times to make sure I didn't mishear him because what he said is, very few women can get behind the ambition of an entrepreneur and some of the decisions that have to get made. There's a lot of really difficult decisions that have to get made in order to be successful, and the sacrifices along the way. And I was just like, record scratch, what? Like, in the context, this person was trying to thank their wife and congratulate their wife for being there for him while he built his business. Fine, great. But the way that it came out was just indicative of like this horrible, shitty patriarchy, which is that like, oh, most women won't take the risk to be an entrepreneur, or most women won't let their husbands go start a company. And like, I'm so sick of that shit. Like hearing that on this respected podcast was like, really like affected me because, this guy, not a bad guy, built a great business. The context was him complimenting his wife, but it just was so clear that he was like, man, my wife is so special because all the other women I know, would never let their husbands do this. All the other women I know would never be entrepreneurs was the tone of it. And that's not okay in my book because I know a ton of amazing female entrepreneurs who have great husbands behind them. And yeah, just not, I hope that things will change.
It's regrettable comment for sure. Do you think that this was a Freudian slip, or do you think this was he meant to say spouse? Very few spouses have the ability to get behind an entrepreneur, or do you think he was so excited that he said the quiet part out loud? And it looks like you're going with quiet part on this one.
That was not that wasn't I mean, it was a slip. I don't, the context was positive, but most men think that way. We know this, right?
Yes.
I know you don't.
Certified. As a man.
Shane, how do men think? Tell me.
As a man, what do men want?
What do men want?
Let's roll out the classic Gibson flick. Mel, tell me, what do women want? Oh, wait. Yeah, wait, that's the name of the movie. What do women want? My bad.
Well, there was a recent remake called What Do Men Want?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is Mel in it?
No, Mel was canceled long ago, Shane.
This is post cancellation, so he was
Yeah, I mean, Mel Gibson is not involved in the What Men Want film.
okay. Good. Good. Great. Speaking of what men want to live in a van.
Good God.
See?
I don't want any part of any man that wants to live in a van.
Definitely not AJ. AJ's not living in a van. What is this article? Zen and the Art of Van Life Influencing. Do you think there's what kind of cultural anchor point phrase, Zen and the Art of? Do you think there's a more used, what would you call that, English major? The Zen and the Art. It's not a pun. It's like substitution.
It's not really. I guess it's kind of an idiom, but it's a proper noun. It's a book title,
right?
Right.
Okay.
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance
is the orig.
Yeah.
Which is 40% nonsense. I've read it.
Right. There's that. There's like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Like bad things happen to good people.
The Germans have to have a word for this. We don't have a word for this.
The Germans for sure have a great word for this. But yeah, it's like a phrase that's a title or a title of a book or movie that's so well known that it becomes other titles.
An idiom substitute, a substitute idiom, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I got to hit up Chomsky on this one. He's got I'll email Noam really quick while we're on the podcast, see what we can get back.
I actually emailed with Noam Chomsky once.
Explain.
Well, when I used to work in book publishing, I was an editor I did a lot of like political. What's that?
First career.
Yeah. First career as book editor. I did a lot of political science and political philosophy books. Mm-hmm. And part of my job as an editor was to find people to blurb the book. And I forget what the book title was, but we were trying to get Noam to blurb it. So I emailed Noam and he wrote right back and he said, no problem, send me a copy. I'd be happy to, and wrote a great blurb for the book. Probably
a very friendly guy, Noam.
We're back right away.
Do you know a dick named Noam? No one named Noam can be a dick. I don't know. Very small sample size. Is that a Jewish name?
Noam Chomsky? Yeah.
All right.
Yes. That would be.
Just confirming. I'm still learning.
Speaking on behalf of all Jews.
I'm still learning.
If you get to speak on behalf of all men, I get to speak on behalf
Very
of all
specific.
Jews.
10 years in New York, I'm still learning. Learning the ways.
Oy vey, as we say in the Jewish faith.
There it is.
Oh, man. Oh, there's Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie.
For those of you listening and not watching the video. By the way, did you know that this is a video podcast? A lot of you are maybe listening on your Apple podcast app or your Overcast or your Stitcher. This is a video podcast on actual YouTube and on our website.
For those of you that want to see a washed up old man in a tank top, feel free to check out the video podcast. Wait, you're gonna ignore my segue. We're watching Zen and the Art of Van Life Influencing. What are we doing here?
I mean, how can you? Yeah, I
mean, the pandemic has pushed people out of their homes, out of the big cities. The brain drain is working in reverse now. People are running away from high tax jurisdictions. I've talked to multiple people about living in vans. Someone around the corner from me here in Brooklyn built out a van and they disappeared about 6 months ago. Conversion vans are backed up 6 months. He's like, this cottage industry. This is a cottage industry article about people that purchase conversion Sprinter vans, which is also famous for toting bands around the country, and refurbishing them into tiny little homes on wheels that they can live in national parks. You can get solar panels on top. You can get some lithium ion batteries. You can get a Starlink. You can work from not literally anywhere, but you can work from Yosemite, right? And perhaps not even work for a traditional firm of any type, tech firm, professional services, but just be an influencer if you can gather enough followers. I love when you text me, AJ. This is probably once every 6 months. Should I just become a financial services influencer? And I do love those because I know you could do it because you can do anything. But I don't know if I could handle you really dumbing it down for the
Oh,
followers, for the likes.
should we introduce our audience to Tax Bimbo?
Oh my God.
I don't think we're ready for that. Tax Bimbo will make an appearance in a future
Ace
episode.
up the sleeve for a truly boring week in the news, please.
No, Tax Bimbo's not ready yet. But if you're driving around the country in your tricked out Sprinter van that you spent, what do these things cost? $100,000?
More than that, if depending on what kind of marble countertop you want in your van.
Where are you paying taxes if you're driving around in a van?
Last place you lived. Is this a real technical? I might have fallen for this. Are you asking me a truly tax domiciliary question?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is like, we're the experts here, Mon.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a common misconception. It's like, I'm traveling around the country. I don't have a home. I'm a nomad. Like, awesome. Great lifestyle choice. Support you fully. If you left Brooklyn, you're paying taxes in Brooklyn.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to get actually into personal finance? I mean, this is actually, a lot of people don't understand, like, where do I pay taxes? The general advice, rule, etc., about where you pay taxes is every American lives in a state. You can't live in no states.
State?
A state. You are domiciled in a state. You pay taxes in one state.
I live in New York. I don't know where a state is.
It's just below Alaska. And you always have to pay taxes. Even we've got clients in Australia. They are residents. They are domiciliaries. They pay taxes in New York, even though they live in Australia, because you always live in a state. If you really wanted to get away, you would have to move to another state, like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Alaska, Nevada, Washington, New Hampshire are famous for not having any state income taxes. They're ideal for people that want to reduce their tax bill and work remotely. I missed one or two. One of the Dakotas, maybe Wyoming. Anyway, so tighten this up a bit. If you want to move over state lines, you want to move to a low tax state, you literally have to leave and land is the phrase. You have to leave your old state and land somewhere else. And landing somewhere else generally means you sign a lease, you get a driver's license, you register to vote, you spend most of your time there, etc. And leaving generally means that you definitely don't have a place there anymore. Not even a sublet, not access to a rental property. If you're renting out your old place, that means that can make it look like you're going to come back. It has to really hurt. If you go to the Hamptons every summer for the past 10 years and you're trying to say that I've actually moved to the Hamptons now, like, how is this different from the past few summers? The auditors they're not going to buy it unless it actually really hurt this time because of COVID. Like, you have rented a moving van, you put all your stuff in it, and you went to a new place. I could go on and on, but I think that's good enough. It's good enough summary there.
Yeah, I mean,
we have an hour-long webinar on it.
We do. Yeah, I feel like this comes up almost every episode because it's like so top of mind right now. Like we're all moving all over the place. I spent a month in,
and it's kind of fun. It's like travel and reducing your taxes at the same time.
Two of my favorite things. Last time I got in trouble because I wanted to talk about sushi and you called me basic. But taxes and travel are things that people are here to talk about, so we're going to talk about them.
I will call you basic on every episode of this podcast.
I think that's a wrap on this show, Shane. I think we covered a lot of fantastic content. I think we got a little uncomfortable talking about OnlyFans and Brazilian bikini waxes.
Fair enough. You want to talk about Elizabeth Holmes next week? I know her trial's going on right now, so there'll be more meat on that bone, depending on how that's going. You're a big fan of Bad Blood.
Big fan of Bad Blood. Yeah, I would like to spend some time talking about that because
I'm a big fan of her voice.
Amanda Seyfried is going to play her in the movie or the miniseries.
I thought it was Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, I don't know. I read Amanda.
Oh, is that
We'll see. Maybe there's two. There's like 3 WeWork movies coming out. People love society. We love
Falls from Grace.
Yeah, we love a fall from grace.
Fallen Angels.
Speaking of falling from grace, you can listen to this. You can find this episode.
If you're listening to this podcast, you must have fallen from grace.
What have you done wrong with your life that you are putting us in your ears?
To this hot mess.
No, but seriously, this is our 5th episode. We've been so humbled and excited by how many of you are actually tuning and listening and giving us feedback. If you want to leave us a voicemail, you can do that. It's brooklynfi.com/podcast.
We'll play it on the podcast if it's rated PG-13.
Yeah.
Maybe even rated R.
Happy to. Yeah, we can swear. You can swear. That's fine. We have warning labels.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is episode 5, so you can find that at brooklynfi.com/episode 5. We'll drop links to the things we talked about. I don't want to talk about van life ever again, Shane. So this is the last time you'll hear about van life.
Did I put this in here?
You put that in there.
Oh, whoops. Well, dreams may come, AJ.
All right. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.